Hello, I'm David Carey. I'm the director of the Bureau of Aquaculture, which is a division of the Department of Agriculture. The Bureau oversees and regulates the shellfish industry and any inland aquaculture, whether it's plants or animals. In the Bureau of Aquaculture, we manage the aquaculture program, which is a unique fishery. It's not a wild fishery like lobsters or marine fish that DEP oversees. Here it's a private fishery where the state leases grounds to individual producers, and they have to plant and cultivate their oysters and clams. And that's done through various methods. We have these natural recruitment areas. Some are privately held and some are reserved as public grounds, and individuals obtain licenses and they remove juvenile shellfish from those areas and plant them on their grounds and grow them out. And in some of the towns and the state, we perform, and some individuals also perform, in terms of oysters, shelling in those recruitment areas to improve the number of seed oysters that are there, so that we ensure that it's the annually taking seed out of there remains a sustainable practice by placing shell in there to greatly increase the number of seed oysters that's set, thereby allowing the practice to continue. And it's been pretty successful in Connecticut for 100 years since it was started in the late 1880s. At the Bureau, we maintain a laboratory which we perform our own shellfish waters and shellfish meat testing for both bacteria and viruses. Before we open a shellfish area after a rainfall amount that historically shows that impacts that area, we collect water samples and we collect a shellfish meat sample and run that through the laboratory. When we get favorable results, we reopen those areas. What they'll do is take a sample on a shellfish bed and we'll test them for fecals. We're looking for E. coli in the water. So what we'll do is we'll take 100 mLs of seawater from that sample and we'll run it through a process called MTEC, membrane filtration. And what we're looking for is yellow colonies. This medium has a pH indicator, and when they process the lactose in the medium, the E. coli are going to produce a yellow pigment, and we're counting those yellow colonies. Anything that's not E. coli or the fecals that we're looking for produce a purple colony. So you can see on this plate here, this is from Norwalk. We have 2 purple colonies on the plate, and that we're not counting that as any colonies and being in the water, because we're not looking for other colonies other than fecal coliforms. And so the laboratory does about over 8,000 samples for the year, collected at many different stations, and those samples are basically collected once a month when areas are open, and have to be collected 5 times a year during adverse events that would impact the area. The model ordinance for the shellfish program requires that we perform sanitary surveys of towns.
We look for failing septic systems, we look for stormwater outfalls, any source of bacteria that could negatively impact the growing area. We additionally will go to pump stations, sewage treatment plants. We ask questions about those to record their performance. We'll take samples at the sewage treatment plants as well, just to see how well they're removing the fecal coliform from the water. We are required to note any changes within the growing area or on land, and that would require us to go out annually and document any negative changes that occurred and make sure that corrective actions occur. The Bureau also, through the submitting legislation, we are working, we want to develop a number of aquaculture enterprises. We'd like to expand those, and along with expanding those, we need to expand the demand for our product, and so we would like to work on a marketing campaign with a name brand for Connecticut's product, which is a superior product, and in an attempt to keep more of that product within the state and featured at our local restaurants or retail outlets. And we think that if we're able to do both of those in order to increase operations and increase the marketing of it, would have tremendous aspects and create additional growth. Because some of the other longer term goals that we have is the development of a seaweed
farms, and seaweed could be used for food, or it could be used for biofuels, or it could be used, for components within food or cosmetics. And in addition to that, we have some individuals that are talking about cultivating scallops, some individuals that are talking about cultivating mussels. And so when you start adding all of those different commodities to the array that would be able to be marketable to Connecticut establishments, it starts to get pretty exciting. And one of the things that we hadn't talked about, in addition to shellfish, we also regulate all inland aquaculture. And historically in Connecticut, it's always been freshwater fish for stocking ponds. However, in the last year, we have begun working with some large-scale and some small-scale ventures that want to grow sea bass, tilapia, or shrimp in indoor facilities. Some would be saltwater, some would be freshwater, but those fish would be produced for food, and that could be added to that array of other crops. And so at this point, aquaculture is pretty exciting, whether it's on land or whether it's in the water.